It is 1 o'clock. You ready?
Ready. Let's
All
do
right. Well, let's do it. All right. So hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Glad You Asked. We're happy to see all of you here today. Thank you, Andy, for joining us, and Christopher, Hank, and Stacy. It's good to see all of you, and I'm sure we'll have a few more joining as we are on our way. I see Amy coming in here. So Tiffany here and Teresa, and we are looking forward to having a really good discussion today about quite a few topics, some things that have been happening in transactions, things that are coming on, and how to be prepared to respond to some of the questions that you might be being asked in this current market. So as usual, before we get started on our topics for today, do want to give you a couple of reminders. We are really excited about our commercial training with Margaret McCann. It's going to be next Wednesday from 10 to 12. If you've not signed up for it yet and you're interested in just learning more about commercial, make sure that you get signed up before Wednesday. They want to make sure they have enough materials for everyone. It's going to be well attended, high quality training. We're just very excited about that.
Yeah.
So,
and make sure you do sign up if you haven't, because we got a lot of folks and you want to make sure you get a seat. So almost standing room only. I'm so thrilled about that. So I signed up. Let me just say that. I registered.
Yeah, I need to check and see if I did. Okay, and so that's you. If you got to check and see, make sure you did, so that you'll have a spot somewhere to sit, as well as the materials that are going to be provided.
Yep.
Also want to remind you all that Red Day is coming up. You know that we have Keller Williams Volunteer Day. They mentioned it briefly in the team meeting. The Hillsborough volunteer opportunities have already been emailed out. And so if you want to volunteer in the Hillsborough area, check your email and make sure to sign up on the Sign Up Genius for one of the slots available. If you want to volunteer in the Burlington area, the email should be coming shortly for your volunteer opportunities and slots in Burlington. So we just want to give you an idea of what to look for depending on where you want to volunteer on our Red Day. All right. And a couple other reminders, just for communication purposes. If you need to be in contact with the BICs, or you have questions that you need answered, remember the BIC hotline. We're asking you to call that one first, because some of the questions can be quickly answered by our BIC hotline. Otherwise, if you need something more specific, please email us at the BIC email. It's brokerincharge832@gmail.com, brokerincharge832@gmail.com, so that we can get your specific issue addressed. All right, so just a couple of reminders there. All right, I think that was all of my reminders. Teresa, did you have any other reminders before we get into the topics for today?
I don't. Let me ask you a question. I know we talked about this, Tiffany, earlier, and it may be coming later. The certifications and reminders of the different months, are we waiting to the end of that, end of this, to discuss that?
The reminders of the different what?
The certification, diversity, agent of distinction. When are we
Oh
talking
yeah,
about
that was going to be part of the Fair Housing Month thing. Should we go ahead and, yeah, let's talk about it now.
Okay.
Since you're talking about it.
Since I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
To all of you wonderful agents, hang on, I see something in the chat. Hang on a second. Do you have the BIC hotline phone number? And you know what, Mr. Rogers, I do. But here's the thing, I don't know it by heart. So give me a second to look in my contacts and put it in the.
Yeah, we'll put it in the chat for you.
I'll put it in the chat.
You don't know your own phone number?
I know.
Do you know yours? How often do you call yourself, right?
Pete, you would be on here to give me a hard time, wouldn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me a second. We'll put it in there.
Is this the BIC hotline or the hot BIC line?
Well, it
both of them work.
Day. Yeah, I was going to say it depends on the day.
Pete.
Yeah, we'll put that in the chat.
Right here. Yep.
You got it, Tiffany?
Yep. I'll announce it, but we will also put it in the chat. It's 336-864-5991. So the big hotline number 336-864-5991. Thanks, Pete, for asking.
Thanks, Judith. Thank you for putting that in there, ma'am. All right. Very good. Okay. Well, Tiffany, just to put it in there, could you put the big email in there while I talk about the certification and
Absolutely.
what it is? Yes. This month, April, among other things going on this month of April, you know, we've already had April Fools and all that good stuff, and Easter is coming, and this weekend is the Keller Williams Central Easter egg hunts. That is Saturday. And April is also Fair Housing Month. So the different associations and maybe even some different firms are highlighting things about fair housing. And it's really a good month to remind yourself about fair housing and our duties to the laws there, federal and state, right? So we got to make sure that we are doing things the way we're supposed to. And in all of our agency agreements, it has the non-discriminatory clause there in bold, all cap letters, that we are not to discriminate based on all of the protected classes. So I wanted to say this, as part of our policy, our new policy, we are asking that all agents take some type of diversity training annually, so we can make sure we are in compliance with the federal and state fair housing laws and rules. So make sure we're conducting our business according to them. So we ask that you do that, and certainly KW has the training. There's 2 classes already, and that is the unconscious bias and the color of real estate are the 2 classes that KWRI offers. So you can go into your mykw.kw.com and look for those trainings under resources, and I think it's under training as well. One thing I do want to bring up, this is new. KWRI has created a Keller Williams diversity certification. So you can receive a certification in diversity and become an agent of distinction. So again, go into your mykw.kw.com and go under connect. I believe it's there. Also under your resources and training tab, you can find the KW diversity certification. And oh, by the way, I've opened it up. So how about I do this? How about I copy and paste the link right into the chat for those of you who are interested in becoming an agent of distinction and receiving your diversity certification.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Teresa. And so again, this month is Fair Housing Month, and next month is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. And so be on the lookout. We're going to have a lunch and learn in Hillsborough concerning mental health awareness, both for you all as agents, but also what to be aware of that may be going on with your clients. There's been a really tough couple of years here, and there are some mental health awareness concerns and issues for agents and for your clients that we want to bring to the forefront. So we're going to have a lunch and learn. We're working on scheduling that for you all in May in Hillsborough. So just look for that invitation when it does go out. All right. And I think that's all of the announcements. And so today we've got 3 interesting topics to discuss. We're going to start with if you have been having some issues with receiving your checks, what you need to do. All right, so I don't know if that's any of you all here, or if you know an agent, you might want to tell them to come back and listen to the video. Teresa, if somebody's having trouble getting paid, what do you What do you say they need to do?
All right, having trouble getting paid, which none of us like that, right? None of us want a delay in receiving our compensation because we worked so hard for it. So anytime an agent or someone, comes to me or, has an issue with getting paid, they haven't received their check, my first question to ask is your transaction uploaded into Command? Has it been submitted for approval, and has that particular transaction been approved? Now, I'll take it a step further because there are different sections within the transaction. I will then ask, are all sections of your Command file approved? Because one section could be approved and another section may be rejected. And they could be requesting more information or a signature's missing or whatever the issue is. So that's going to be the first place to start. Is your file uploaded into Command? Has it been submitted for approval? If it has, are all sections of your file approved? The other thing is, have you submitted the offer and commissions tab? Has that been submitted and approved? That's another question. So your DA can be created, or we no longer call it that, but we call it that, but we don't. The offers and commissions tab, has that been submitted? So that's going to be the next question. If all of those things have been done, my next question would be, did you actually make a copy of the check and upload it into the close tab? Because we're going to need that, or the MCA is going to need that. So that's going to be one question. And when did your file get approved? Was it prior to you turning your check in, or was it after you turn your check in? It makes a difference. Now, let me bring this up too as an FYI, because it's part of our policy. And not only is it part of our policy, but it is a North Carolina Real Estate Commission rule. We have 3 days to turn in documents to the BIC, which means put it in Command, submit it for approval so you can start the approval process, and they will then let you know what's missing. So if the commission says 3 days, we are saying 2. We are asking that you upload your documents and submit them within 2 days. That way we meet the commission's requirement. So it all starts with the paperwork, putting it into Command, and the transaction. Now, that's not to say the compliance department doesn't make mistakes. They're humans. They're going to make mistakes. They may miss something or may call something rejected when really it isn't, based on that particular situation. At that point, when that happens, you need to reach out to me so I can actually go into the file individually, look at the particular paperwork form or whatever in question, and then we can put notes in there and make a determination to approve to get you paid. We really don't want to hold on to these checks because that's a big thing on Russ's plate now, our new MCA. So he doesn't want to hold on. We really want to pay you, but we really need to start with the transaction file itself. If it is complete, approved, everything is approved, your check has been uploaded, your closing disclosures or HUD, they are there. If it's in by 9, it's out by 4. In by 9, out by 4. With that, April, if you're in the Hillsborough location, April is in the Burlington location on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If there are checks to be brought back to the Hillsborough office, she will pick them up on Tuesdays, take them to Hillsborough on Wednesday. She will then be back here in Burlington on Thursday and will pick up the mail for Hillsborough to take it back on Friday. If you would like your check, if you're in the Hillsborough office and you'd like your check before that time, then you may have to come to Burlington to get it if you're not okay with waiting until April is
Absolutely.
back in the Hillsborough office. And of course, there's ACH deposit as well.
All right.
That was a
Well,
lot.
thank you.
Question. I got
Yes,
a question.
Okay.
We're having, this is not hypothetical, have a closing with a lawyer in Raleigh.
Mhm.
Raleigh sends the check to Keller Williams Central at Suite 206.
Mhm.
How do we know it's there? And who takes a picture of it? And is the check automatically processed? I mean,
Good question.
that's the
Right.
problem.
I got you. Understood. And thank you for bringing that up, Pete, because that is an issue because, you know, if you don't want to drive to Raleigh to pick up a check, they're going to put it in the mail. Yes. So here's what I would suggest, because Russ gets a ton of checks. Number one, he needs to know who it goes with. And most times the attorney will put the address on there and buyer name, seller name. The only thing is we may not know which agent that belongs to. So although he will have this check, he may not know this check goes to Pete and Beth Glidewell. So in those particular cases, I would suggest right now, without having a better process for that, is send an email to Russ, to the MCA, and make them aware of the incoming check. Give the MCA as much detail as possible so he can match the check to the command transaction file. That would be the best thing to do. Again, without Russ being here in Glad You Asked and without a better or another process, that's the best thing to do. Make a note, send an email, and make him aware. Be on the lookout for this. And the amount too as well.
Will he be taking a picture of it? Because if he cashes the check, and we don't have a picture of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what he's been doing, if I'm not mistaken, is holding on to it until he finds out who it belongs to, what transaction it belongs to. I cannot speak to that, Pete. I'm going to be quite honest because I don't have Russ here to ask that question. So that's something that I am going to have a conversation with Russ. I'll have that conversation with him. And I definitely will make that known once I find that out.
Yeah. We also used to get a text message saying you have a check in your box. We don't get that anymore.
Yeah. I never knew that. I don't know. I'll have to get with Russ and come up with that process.
I would also like to add that traditionally, like I have the attorneys just mail the checks, and there's not been a copy of the checks for the file to have. There's another with getting paid, like if you have a referral. I recently had not an incident, but it was a referral with a last name that matched one of my clients, and it was a unique last name, and that I was actually paid on that referral, and it wasn't my referral. But we don't put referrals in command, so we need to come up with a system for, like, if somebody in California, they sell a house, I've referred that person to them, well, then they send me the check, or send Keller Williams the check. There's no trail to say who this was for.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a note of that. Just did make a note of how referrals can be better handled.
And you can still work from Florida. You see the palm trees in the background.
I know, I love it. I'm jealous. I'm gonna be quite honest. And I'm freezing in my office, Ethiel. I have my heat going here, yeah.
Well, yesterday it was 87, today it's only like 82, so.
You must really be suffering with it only being 82 today.
I am suffering. Look at the suffering I'm experiencing. look, I'm suffering really bad.
Jealousy here, envy. Yeah, so thank you both, Pete and Ethiel, for that. I have made notes. Tiffany has made notes. She's gonna make sure that I get some answers for you all and get back to you on that. But yeah, we understand it's an issue and we do want to get you paid, but we want to make sure we're doing everything on the agent side so that there's no further delay in receiving your checks, because you work so hard and you deserve them.
Yep. So keep in mind, from our perspective as BICS, we only have the participation in the compliance piece of that. So that's what we can, definitely speak to. And Teresa really stepped us through step by step how to make sure that that is not the holdup for your compensation. All right. So that was topic number one. Like I said, or like Teresa said, thank you for the suggestions and the questions so that we can follow up with the proper department and find out how those will be addressed. And we hope to have an update for you soon. Topic number two for today, it is what happens when your coming soon is no longer coming soon? What happens when you have a seller who agreed to a date and then their work is behind schedule? They changed their mind, something happened and their coming soon date has now changed. What do you do? How do you handle that? You've got paperwork, you've got dates. If you've entered it into the MLSs, they will automatically go active and live. What do you do if your coming soon is no longer coming that soon? Any of you had that trouble? Any of you had that situation recently? And what challenge did you run into? And what questions do you have for us on that? So maybe no one here has had it recently. We've gotten a slew of emails about that. So we'll share with you. And if you know any agents that are going through that process, then make sure you, again, tell them about the GYA. All right. So when it comes to your coming soon, not coming soon again or anymore, there's a few ways to handle that. And primarily it's related to the MLS rules for the property that you have listed. So depending on the MLS will determine how you handle it. So different MLSs use the terms differently. There's a withdrawal for some MLSs. There's a cancel for some MLSs. Some of them require you to have a termination that in order to cancel or withdraw, some of them do not. So it is really important for you to be familiar with your MLS rules when it comes to withdrawals, cancellations, or in this case, if you have to just change your coming soon date. Okay, so another option is temporarily off the market. You can have that as an option for if you're talking about a 1 or 2 day delay, as opposed to having to move it out a week or so or more. And so it really depends. We get a lot of emails about this, and most of the time we are shooting back questions to ask, what is the situation? So if you're running into this, please, give us some details in the email so that we can answer more quickly to you. What is the cause of the change in the coming soon? Is there an actual termination or is it just a delay? And which MLS are you advertised in? If you can get us those kinds of details, we can give you more specific information about how to handle your particular concern. Okay, so send us more details so that we can help you when it comes to changing or withdrawals or something to that effect. Okay, now Teresa is going to give you a little bit of information on the definition of a couple of terms, what the difference is between withdrawal and cancel. So Teresa,
okay,
what's the difference?
What's the difference? Whew, I tell you, it's a lot to keep up with. And we used to only be members of 3 MLSs, but guess what? We're a member of 5 now. We have added Canopy and we have added Longleaf Pines in the Fayetteville area. I guess we were called KW Central for a reason. So I can't talk to you about Canopy right now. That's still new to me. And so is Long Leaf. That's super new. I mean, we just became a member of that one. So I'm going to speak to the main ones. That's Alamance, Triad, and Triangle. So for Alamance and for Triad, they are very similar. So withdrawal in Alamance and Triad means there's a termination of agency. So they will say it's terminated, it's done, and there's usually nothing we can do to go back to activate it once it's been withdrawn in those two, okay? We may be able to pick up the phone and get some help and have them do some things depending on the situation, but typically we can't go back once it's been withdrawn in those two. Now, in Triangle, withdrawal means you still have an active listing agreement in place. However, all advertising or advertisement has ceased. So withdrawn means still have the listing agreement in place. I'm no longer advertising. That's withdrawn in Triangle. Triangles, if you have a terminated listing agreement, that is called canceled in Triangle. Okay, so Triangle has a few more categories than Alamance and Triad. So if one of the agents comes and says, okay, it was coming soon, but now we are completely taking it off the market, we're not advertising, and we need to terminate the listing agreement, then I will need a copy of it. Triad says that I have to have a copy of the termination of the listing. However, I do not have to turn it into them. That's Triad. That's my part as a big. But Triangle says that if there's a terminated listing agreement, I have to actually give it to them. And I am the only one who can withdraw, or I'm sorry, only one who can cancel in Triangle and Triad. I have to withdraw in Triad, and I have to cancel, terminate in Triangle. Okay.
Right.
I even get confused. So the terms mean different things depending on your particular MLS.
Oops.
Questions?
Beth, is that you?
Yeah, I've got two questions that don't deal exactly with what you're just talking about, but you mentioned we're in with Canopy now.
Yes.
And so does that mean that if we do a deal with a Canopy agent, we don't have to sign anything to get a commission?
The firm is, yeah, that's pretty possibly true. But you know what, Beth? I'm a firm believer of CYA. So I would say get it anyway, because if you're not a member, then unless you get someone who is, or if I go in there and print that MLS sheet for you, you not being a member, I would still CYA and get that compensation agreement.
Okay. All right. And the other thing, I know you were talking about coming soon a minute ago, but if you have an active listing and the seller wants to just has a reason they want to take it off the market, well, not take it off the market, but block showings for a certain number of days, do I have to, how do you handle blocking showings?
Yeah, the agents have the ability to go in there and put it no showing status.
Yeah, but is there a certain amount of time? Is there a time limit that you can do it, or can you block them for a week or 2 weeks? Or
I believe there is a amount of time. I'm not completely sure of that time. Tiffany, do you know?
So there is a time limit, and again, it depends on the MLSs. Depending on which MLS, the time limits range from 2 days. You can have a very short-term one up to 2 weeks. And some of the MLSs require you to have a signature from the seller in order to go temporarily off market or into a no-show status. So again, it's really important that you all familiarize yourself with your MLS rules, because again, we are members of so many of them. that and their rules are very different. So which MLS are you primarily working in, Beth?
Well, Alamance, Triad, and Triangle.
Okay, so those three. Okay, and I know generally Alamance and Triad rules are very, very similar, but Triangle is very different than. So the I think the rules are a little more lenient for the no-show status for Alamance and Triad, but Triangle has the form and the restrictions. So again, make sure you're familiar with those things because you could be subject to fines if you don't do it properly. They'll typically give you some sort of notice to try to help you out along the way. But once you have a notice or two, then they start to institute those fines.
But when I've had questions with the 3 MLSs, I have just called them. I mean, is there a good place to go where everything's listed, all their rules and regulations?
Okay, really great question. So calling is always a great option. And you can also email them at the help desk. Each one had help desk at Triad MLS or help desk at Triangle MLS. And they are very responsive and helpful. But each one of them does have their rules and regulations on their websites. And so one thing that I do, I just have I have a notebook here that I print out. This one is Triad's handbook, and I have Triangle and each MLS handbook because they do have their rules and regulations on their individual websites. And that way you could flip through really quickly, maybe go through one time, highlight the things that are key, and then you'll have a quick reference for yourself. That's really the way that I manage it myself, to keep the different MLS rules at a fingertips reach, if you will.
Okay.
So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
So I did have I had a house that was on the market. It literally was on the market less than 24 hours. And it was tenant occupied. At 8 o'clock that morning, the tenant called me and said, I have COVID. And
Wow.
that, at that point, it's like, of course it's a listing. So it's, and it's packed. Trying to urgently cancel everything. And I just canceled showing, stopped everything and showing time because that's a real thing that can happen. And it had to be off the market for at least 10 days. And then, so that was like the most urgent thing I've ever had in real estate because it was like, what do you do? And then trying to figure out how, you don't want to withdraw it in certain ones because that means you got to do all the work again. And there's a whole big mess, but learning how, taking this time to figure out, if that did happen, because that's the one thing that if you have someone who lives there, that gets sick, whether it's the flu or COVID or any other ailment they have, how do you stop it quickly? And the quickest way for me to stop anybody from going was in showing time. Right. And I just canceled all the appointments, sent everybody a note, and then figured it out from there. But it was a mad scramble to figure that out.
Right.
Yeah. And so again, the best way is to know those rules or have them at your fingertips ahead of time so that if you run into an emergency, you'll know, especially if you're in multiple MLSs too, you'll know, okay, this is a temporarily no-show situation for Triangle. This is a off the market one for Triad or vice versa. And make sure that the biggest thing is make sure you do not accidentally terminate if that's not what you're really after or trying to do. That's the one that we run into where I have canceled it or withdrawn it. Most of the time we run into the BIC has to do it because agents do that by accident. But if there's an MLS that allows you to cancel or withdraw it, then don't accidentally do that because you may be terminating when you only meant to temporarily pull it off. So again, when you get a moment, we know that things are very, very busy, but it'd be worth taking the time to go through your manual or your handbook for your MLS and just highlighting the key things, especially when it comes to temporarily off the market, withdrawing. Make sure that you're familiar so that you don't put yourself in a situation where you have to redo all the work and all the paperwork. We're trying to save you guys the time by not doing the wrong thing.
And as an FYI, all 3 MLSs now have coming soon forms and no showing forms. So Alamance has now added no showings, withhold from MLS, and coming soon forms to their repertoire. So
Okay.
those are available when you log in. You can get those forms. So all 3 now require them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. And Sarah's asking, when did that start? Are you talking about the forms, Sarah? The no showing forms, or when did?
Yeah, I was asking about the coming soon in Alamance because I just put one up and I did not know I needed an agenda.
Yeah, good question, Sarah. They came up with these forms at the end of 21 and really started promoting it at the beginning of this year. They sent Alamance sent them out. So I would venture to say they're on a, kind of lenient basis now, getting everybody used to the forms because they have not had them for so long, and now they do. So just know going forward, since you just had one, I would probably say go and look for the form, get familiar with it, go ahead and fill it out based on the coming soon you have now. Not that you're in trouble, so don't think you are, but just, as a safeguard, and just know going forward, Alamance has those forms.
Is it in DocuSign?
It's there on the Alamance website. So when you log into the MLS, they are in that list over to the right of the screen in the forms section there.
And one other thing about that coming soon form, Alamance and Triad's form require a date, and we get it all the time where the agents are putting the wrong date. So the date on that form is not the date that you're filling it all out or you're getting the listing. The date on that form is the date that the listing is actually going to go active and have showings begin. So make sure you understand what date to enter into the Alamance and Triad forms. Triangle doesn't require a date, so you don't have that issue. But make sure you're putting the correct date. We keep having to send back a lot of coming soons because they're putting the actual date that everybody's signing instead of the active date for the listing. Okay, so just want to give you guys that reminder for those forms as well.
Very good.
All right, really great discussion and questions. Any other questions before we go to our third topic for the day?
Hey, Teresa.
Hey.
Hey, it's Andy. How are you?
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Taking over the world.
Love it.
Random question for Pete and Beth while I just saw it. Pete and Beth, I promise that has a purpose to it. Did you guys just close on one recently in Ashboro?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Did that
Yeah.
check get mailed here?
Our clients use Matt Wall here, so it wasn't a problem.
Got you. The reason I was asking is because I thought I may have had an answer to your previous question about what happens to those. Because the office that I'm sitting in, there's a shared computer screen, and I randomly saw that check uploaded in here, and if it got mailed here, it would have answered your question. I'm like, yes, he's taking a picture and uploading it. So I was just checking while I saw it.
No, we do have 2 others that were being mailed, and so it would apply to those 2 others, but not the Ashboro one.
Okay, I saw the address, and I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you for adding that in there, Andy. I appreciate that. That was good. So he saw a photo, so we may have an answer. We're still gonna chase it down and confirm.
All right. Well, our final topic for today is, what do you do, or how do you handle when your clients ask you for other professional advice? If your clients are asking you, I want to set up a trust account, what do I do? Or tax time is coming up and I need some advice for my taxes. Or if they're asking you for specifics about inspecting a home, what do you do? How do you respond to your clients' questions when they're asking you for advice outside of real estate?
You ever heard of Colonel Clink?
Colonel
Sergeant-
Clink.
Yeah, I know nothing. I see nothing. I've heard nothing. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician. I'm your real estate agent.
Pete, you left out the most important one. You say nothing.
Yeah.
That's hard for Pete to do.
I said, go, it was this morning. I said, go find an accountant. I can't tell you the capital gains thing when it has to be done. I'm your fiduciary from a real estate standpoint. I do not give legal advice. I do not give accounting advice.
That is a perfect response, Pete. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is just a reminder because clients will ask, they don't know where to go. This is a part of our job is to point them in the right direction. We could even refer them to other service providers, but we don't answer non-real estate related questions. And we don't give legal advice. We are not plumbers. We're not home inspectors. And so it's important to make sure that you remind your client per the agency agreement that they signed that you do not give other professional advice, that you could refer if they desire them to another professional, but make sure that you guys are not overstepping the bounds. It's important as real estate brokers that you have to stay in your lane, and that lane is real estate brokerage and not even the attorney. You don't answer legal questions. Okay. So it's important to just make sure you rehearse it. I love the way that Pete said it. You can practice, do some script practice for yourself on ways to respond. So you do have a concern. You want to help your clients. I understand that. But again, you have to be careful not to overstep the bounds of real estate. And so it's very easy to respond with, that is a great question. It should be handled by a tax professional or an attorney. Would you like a referral? So there's a few different ways that you can handle it. Make sure that you're not trying to give advice in some other professional category, because again, you could be held liable for what you say or the advice that you give. And then we're going to have to get into E&O and all these other things if that advice is incorrect.
Well said.
Any questions? Questions, concerns, situations? All right, well, we will open up the floor. What's going on in you guys' transactions? What are you running into? What trouble are you having? What questions do you have for us?
In this wonderful, unique market, in the wonderful world of real estate.
So I'll chime in.
Okay, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
So along the same lines of staying in your lane, what we have found on the buyer side with the frantic nature of things and the expensive nature of non-refundable due diligences and sight unseen, I mean, buyers having to give up everything.
Yeah.
The buyers have come to want and almost expect their real estate agent to be a home inspector. And what we're realizing is that we have to stop doing the extras that we've been doing. Like Allison, our buyer's agent, has been going into crawl spaces, which I've learned she shouldn't be doing. And leaving herself open to the liability about what she saw or what she didn't see. So I've just had an awakening around that I thought I would share with others. If your buyers are asking you to do things and to give opinions about things that that maybe they shouldn't be, then to protect yourself, you probably want to make sure that you clarify for them what is appropriate for you to do and what isn't. We've had some, and we talked about this, I think, on the last version of this Zoom. We've had buyers who have hired home inspectors to come along on the initial visit to offer what they can offer, about the condition of the home, which is the right way to go about it, rather than putting that on us to be making, to offering our opinions.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's so true. You need to definitely be aware of the liability that you're placing on yourself when you're overstepping. So, there's nothing wrong with wanting to satisfy your clients and wanting to do an excellent job. But sometimes the best way to do that is to every time really, the best way to do that is to refer them to the appropriate professional to handle those issues and those concerns for them. And thank you, Judy, for mentioning the last Glad You Asked when we discussed bringing a home inspector in. Remember that they are not authorized by the seller, so they can't touch anything. But you could bring someone to just do a visual inspection and point out some things to the buyer as they're going along, okay? And so that's definitely some great feedback. Thank you for sharing that. And then Carl, I thought I saw you come off of your mute. Did you have a question for us? Okay, maybe not. Anyone else have a question? Oh, okay, there you are.
Oh, he's there? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I had a question. Why are referrals not put in command?
What was that?
Why are referrals not put into command?
Oh, that's a good question. Why are referrals not put in command?
Good question. I'm going to have to research the whole referral thing and see exactly the process on referrals.
Because don't you, did you not take a cut from the referrals or no?
You do.
Okay.
Yes, most agents do. And, a lot of times when you refer it out to someone, there's nothing for you to put into command. So because there's no transaction on your side, you just referred it out. But now we're getting this check as a firm. So now we need to know how to handle that is the biggest thing.
Right.
Referrals will certainly be in there if we are the receiving firm. If we receive the firm and we are the initiator of the transaction, then of course that portion that's paid out to that referring agent will be in our offers and commissions tab within command. But if we're referring it out, no transaction in command, we need to know the process of what we do and how we handle that when the firm receives this check and we don't know where it came from.
And there's no agent name or no address or any of that. Carl, I have the same concern, actually. I have some referrals that I'm waiting to come in from other states, and I'm just keeping an eye on that to chase it myself when I'm aware that there's a check coming and so I'm, making the communication happen so that when my referral does come, it will match up and come to me. But I think maybe part of it is because when you're referring out, there's no address to attach it to, that there could be at least a name or something. So we'll look into and see if there could be some sort of process put around that makes sense. We'll dig into that and try to get some answers.
Yeah.
So I just checked. KW referrals do go into command.
You're right.
Maybe you said that, but KW referrals do go into command. It's other than KW that are not in command.
You're right.
I mean, it seems like, yeah, why shouldn't they all have a place in there?
You're right. Good point, Judy.
Yeah.
Very good. Very
So
good.
West Virginia doesn't have Keller Williams. So that's a potential. I mean, so there are places that Keller Williams doesn't exist, and that's still a referral, and it's nice to get a check. But
right.
like making sure the process so that the market center has an easy way of identifying this is how we do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Else, we got time. Yeah, I got something else. Have you got time?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just a little bit far as like looking, you mentioned inspections and doing all that stuff. Maybe another strategy out there that I'm going, not a strategy I'm going through, but I'm experiencing is I have a property that I'm managing. The owner 6 months into the lease and 12 months lease wants to sell it. So we got a renter that still got 6 months on the lease. I'm not the I'm not the listing agent, it's, you know, the person that referred it. However, the buyer's agent, how this is turning out, this buyer's kind of got like a good thing going on because there was no showings. He did it sight unseen because we was hard trying to get showings done with the tenant and stuff. He put in an offer sight unseen, but they did it with, it was a tiered due diligence. So it was an offer and it was a due diligence of, hey, I need to get in there within 5 days. So here's 1,200 due diligence. I'll give you another 14 if I'm able to get in there within 5 days to see it. And so that actually gave that buyer, because when we got him in there to see it, he had more time to walk around, look around and look at things as compared to the normal, feed and frenzy when they're doing showing. So technically he was the only one that got to look at the property, and he could have backed out and only cost him 1,200 in due diligence. But then once he said, great, I'm good, then it tiered up to the 14,000 in due diligence. So that might be a strategy to go find something. He's going to move into it himself after 6 months when the lease is up. But that might be a strategy that people can use to go look for people that have tenants in it and do it that way. Stuff. So
That's good.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Carl. That is a great strategy. Definitely something to keep in mind, and to get that buyer that property without all of the competition and more time to assess that before they make their final large due diligence payment.
I mean, it all was accidental to come out that way, but that's how you learn.
Right.
Was it a coming soon status?
It wasn't coming soon, but once again, tenants, we had a hard time trying to get showings. The tenant wouldn't, for different reasons. Hey, I got family, I got this, and I got that. But once again, that buyer actually got a better chance than most buyers did with the market going on, how it worked out. So.
Okay, and I see some questions from Mary Donald. So Mary, we have the due diligence tier. That's a part of our addendum that we had created for the Market Center last year. And so it's the same addendum that has the appraisal escalation. We also have a section where you could do a due diligence tier type of offer on that addendum. And so if you would like a copy of that, put your email address and we can make sure that gets sent back out to you. Otherwise, if you know the addendum that we're talking about, that ability is in that addendum as well.
And Judith,
Judith, yeah.
thank you for
No,
your
that's okay. My hand is a little bit hard to see visually on Zoom, but so I had one question. I'm hoping that I'll be able to, like the rest of the agents on the line, be sending out an email to the center, whoever this person is that sends a check. What email address is that for this? Maybe you could put that in the chat. So that was one question. Then the other question that I had asked, and this might seem like a stupid question, but I still want to ask it, is as it relates to the check. And I noticed that, Tiffany, you made, really a very good point about brokers in charge, more dealing with compliance issues than administrative issues. But certainly one of the questions I guess I'd ask anybody here on this line, or if you hadn't had knowledge. So for the closing attorney, when you are closing, would it be unusual for you to ask the closing attorney to make a copy of the check and email it to that agent? So could the agent, I know for security purposes, maybe you don't want those checks in anybody's email, but since you're handling so much volume, would it be unusual, or would you advise against asking the closing attorney to make a copy of that check, send it to you, the agent, so that you can then send it on to the center to say, this is coming here for me? So
yeah, Judith, great question, and great resolution, option as well. That's something that I've done before. Very rarely do I not pick up a check. I don't mind driving anywhere to get money, so I will pick up a check. But in this one particular situation, I didn't, and that is something that I asked to do, and they were gracious enough. The receptionist or paralegal or whoever was gracious enough to say absolutely. So when I was emailed a copy of the closing disclosure, along with that, they included a copy of the check when it was ready. So that's a great option.
Yeah, I don't see any reason or any legal ramification for asking. And then it's up to the attorney if they're willing to do that or not. Yeah, so thank you. Great question. Stacy, I see your comment and we'll make sure that we get that addendum emailed out to you.
I am putting the email addresses to the MCA in the chat, so don't go away before I put it in there. I'm going to put the MCA's email there, as well as the commission's processing, the department that actually processes the checks and the numbers and all of that. So give me 1 second, okay?
All right. So we'll be looking for that to pop up in the chat. Any other questions? We have about 4 more minutes. 4 more minutes. If anybody has any other issues, questions. Okay, Sarah.
I have kind of a complicated situation.
Okay.
One of my investor clients flipped a house and he chose not to permit the second bathroom that he added. It was a 3-1 and, or it was a 3-1 and now it's a 3-2. And I told him that we couldn't list it as a 3-2 since it wasn't permitted. And he said that was fine. So we put it into coming soon. And now he's decided that he does want to take a look at permitting it. And I'm not sure about the timeline of our listing that we just put online or what I should do to make that happen to his wishes.
Okay, where is that property located, Sarah? What county?
Guilford.
In Guilford County? Okay, so each county handles their permitting differently. My understanding is that most counties have gone away from permitting after the fact, and he would have to strip it back down to the studs and redo it in order to get a permit. So it may not even be possible. So I would say first step is check with the county to find out if that's a possibility. And that will also help you to determine timing on if that's the case, because it may not be possible for him. I've heard that North Carolina really is moving away from after the fact permitting. Okay, so it may not even be possible, but if so, then they could give you a better idea of how long that process might take. And then from there, he would be able to more accurately determine how to proceed with that listing. Yeah. Thank you for asking. That was a really great question. Teresa has put the 2 email addresses. We've got Russ Alvis, the MCA is russalvis@kw.com. And then for commission processing, it's commissions with an S, 832@kw.com. Please make sure if you're expecting a check to be mailed to give the MCA a heads up by sending notification to Russ and the commissions department. So include both, send them to both, just to make sure that that communication has been facilitated so that we can really get your funds back out to you as quickly as possible. All right. Well, great. So it has been yet another wonderful conversation. We just want to thank you all for attending. We hope that you got some good information, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks where we're working on some more good stuff for you. I hope to see some of you guys at the commercial training on Wednesday. And
yes,
yeah, next
week.
Yep, Wednesday, 10 o'clock. And as always, Teresa and I are so glad that you asked. Thanks, y'all. Bye, everybody.
Have a great afternoon.